Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all, so I hope you find this one interesting. This movie is an action film from South Korea, Korean language English subs, released in the year 2022, directed by Lee Sang-yong, and this film is called The Roundup. So The Roundup is about a special task force within the Korean police. They are in charge of going to Vietnam and extraditing a vicious Korean national who is kidnapping people, ransoming them, and then murdering them. So the authorities want something done, so they enlist this man who is very feared as far as his physical presence is concerned, but he's known to get results. So he goes to Vietnam with the intention of making this very quick to extradite this man back, but things don't go to plan and they're going to get chaotic very quickly. So what happens at that point on? Something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Roundup. If you want good old-fashioned action, the Roundup franchise is definitely one I would highly recommend. Now, good old-fashioned action, what was it all about? It wasn't all about feelings, it wasn't all about making the action hero vulnerable, it was about the action hero doing what he does best, putting justice upon the bad guys. There was no grey in between, there was no mixing emotions, there was no vulnerabilities, it was basically just cathartic violence. Just make the bad guys as bad as possible, you hate them as much, and therefore it's very rewarding when the violence is inflicted upon them. And so that's what the Roundup franchise really understands. Now, I was very surprised to see that the actual first movie of this franchise was The Outlaws. Now, The Outlaws is a film I reviewed a long time ago. I actually liked that movie, but I didn't realise that the Roundup was actually part of that. So there's 4 films in this franchise so far, and so when I knew that the Roundup was the second instalment, I had to go and see it. And another reason I really wanted to see it was Dong-seok, and aka Don Lee. Don Lee's his English name. Now, this guy takes me back to Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando, Sylvester Stallone in Rambo, where it's a one-man army. It's a really, really likeable guy. The Don Lee's character in this Roundup franchise, one of the most likeable individuals that you'd meet. He's very humorous. He's got a lot of jokes that are thrown in, but he's got that almost invincible presence about him, that caricature nature about him. And the caricature, if you intensify that caricature, that's what makes action fun. It's not about feelings. It's not about human emotion, character development. It's about action choreography and seeing as much carnage as possible. And that's exactly what this movie understands. This is what the whole franchise understands, and what I liked about the Roundup is that it's elevating itself from The Outlaws. So in a lot of franchises you have the first film that's really good, and then it goes downhill after that. The inconsistencies in the elevation is present in a lot of these franchises, whereas this movie, yes, it's only the second movie I've seen in the franchise, but it's a step in the right direction. So I actually felt as though it improved on what I didn't like about The Outlaws. So Don Lee is definitely the driving force of this movie, but I thought the side characters that he's working with, I thought they were very likeable as well. And so it's a team of individuals. It's a team, but they're being led by that superhero. And so you've got the bad guys as well. Now, the violence in this movie, although it's very cathartic, it's used very well. There's a contrasting difference in violence. The bad guys are very brutal, very harsh, and the cruelty is there. And so you know what is at stake. And the good guys, when they inflict their violence, it's not quite as brutal. And so it's almost like good violence versus bad violence in a very sick way. But violence in this sense is not taking itself too seriously. So I thought as though the contrasting differences worked very, very well. And I thought the bad guys were used in a way where I absolutely hated them, especially the main bad guy. I thought he was very arrogant. He felt invincible himself. And I just kept thinking, just you wait until you meet Don Lee's character. And so that therapeutic anticipation was there. And when Don Lee's doing what he does best, I just thought as though there was a strong sense of rewarding quality. And that's what I loved about this movie. And so that's what took me back to yesteryear. It took me back to when I was really young watching Commando, where Arnold Schwarzenegger was just killing off a whole army by himself. Now, that's not realistic, but that's what made it so much fun, because you can just sit back and you can let your imagination run wild. And the Roundup is that sort of film. So you don't necessarily feel as though this main character is in danger, but the way he inflicts his violence and the violence that he's inflicting upon, I just thought as though that therapeutic, cathartic nature about it is a forgotten art in action movies. And so that's definitely what the Roundup does very, very well. So it's a very colourful, very vibrant in its visuals. As I said, there's some very harsh and unforgiving violence that took me by surprise, and so it's not a movie for kids, but it is definitely a movie for adult action viewers. So if it sounds like your kind of thing, definitely go out there and see it. And so the improvements that this movie made, as I said, the whole team have that likeable quality about them. There's banter, and I actually felt as though it was a close knit sort of family, and there's a lot of chemistry there. And so the banter really works well with each other. I thought the script was actually there, but then the bad guys and the team of the bad guys, they're completely different. So as I said, those two contrasting worlds gives it almost that comic book sort of feel. And so that's what the Roundup goes for, and that's what the Roundup does very, very well. If I have issues with the movie, it's not an in-depth sort of movie. It's not a movie that's going to win any Oscars, but it doesn't pretend to be. As I said, this is a step back into the time machine to take you back to the really, really good action movies. You know, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, these movies that just felt as though, all right, I'm just relieving all the pressures of real life, and I'm just enjoying myself. The cathartic violence of the guys who really deserve it. I just thought as though it was a step back into the era of really, really good action. And so the Roundup is definitely one of those movies that I would highly recommend if you are a fan of old-fashioned action films. Dong-seok, aka Don Lee, is absolutely phenomenal in this movie. Just the way he goes about, you know, dispatching his adversaries, I thought was absolutely fantastic. And the end of the film was fantastic as well, and it sets it up for the third and the fourth installments. And so I'm hoping that the third and fourth film are just as good, and the Roundup is definitely a step up above the Outlaws, and that's saying something because I actually like the Outlaws, but the Roundup is a step in the right direction, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to get bigger and better from here. So overall, for the Roundup, going to give this one 4 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.